So this is going to be the CV writing workshop. To introduce, I know Darren kindly just introduced myself, but I thought it'd be helpful for you to know I am a career and mindset coach. I've been recognised by Yahoo Finance as top 10 career coach to watch in 2020. I have over 10 years experience working in HR, recruiting and sales. And the clients that I have been recruiting for or selling for are professional services, law firms, real estate firms, utilities, media, pharmaceuticals, industrial and securities. So quite a range of different types of organizations. I've actually done public sector as well, actually, so that's in there as well. In terms of today, it will be focused on CV writing. I've approached this workshop with the idea that some of you may not have written a CV and some of you may have done so. Just so that I can get a bit of a feel for who I have in the room, could you please put into the chat whether or not you have a CV or if you don't have a CV already? And anybody new, if I could ask you to mute your microphone, please. I think, Dami, your phone's coming through. Great, Angel has a CV. Anyone else? Nice, we have a few coming through here.
The chat should be at the bottom of the screen, just for anyone that doesn't know.
Oh, perfect. Okay, most people do. Anybody that doesn't? Wonderful. Okay, everybody seems to have a CV. Jordan doesn't. Okay, great. Wonderful. Okay, thank you for that. Good to know. Okay, so today's agenda is going to be a bit of an overview as to when and how your CV is used. I'm going to go through the different building blocks of what makes your CV. Appreciate quite a lot of you already have one, but I'm hoping there will be some content in there that helps you think about how you might want to update or reframe some of the content. I'll give you some tips on CV formatting. I'll let you know what you should not do on your CV, and I'll teach you how to tailor your CV for each role. Please do let me know in the chat if you have any questions as you go. I will be leaving time at the end for questions as well, but I tend to find if you're anything like me, after the time is up, I would have forgotten my questions. So please just share it as you think of it. I'll do my best to keep an eye on the chat and answer them as you go. Are there any questions with that? Okay, cool. So let's jump right into it. So the CV is actually used more frequently than you probably realize. It's used in 5 separate stages of the job search. There's the initial shortlist, which is what most people assume the CV is used for, and indeed it is. It's when organizations first receive a batch of CVs and they sift through the ones that they would like to select for interview. The next stage is final interview selection. So what I mean by that compared to the first part is, let's say a company's advertised a job. They, on average, get, sorry, can you please mute your mic? I think, Amy, your mic is coming through there. They do the initial shortlist just to get through the initial batch, because the average number of CVs that are submitted are about 200 per job. In my personal experience, the average number that I ever received would be anything between 5 and 30. So I think when they say 200, that is a very much nationwide statistic. And I think that's when you're looking at probably every single type of job out there. The types of job that I used to recruit for, as I mentioned earlier, was more professional services and real estate, law firms, accountancy firms. That number, as I say, was between 5 and 30 CVs. Even then, out of 30 applications, I would still only bring in maybe 3 to 5, maybe 6 for interview. because ultimately that's the interviewer's time that I'm going to be taking up when I select those CVs. So once I've done an initial shortlist, there is the final interview selection where the final people for interview get selected. Your CV then gets reviewed by the interviewers prior to the interview. And again, this is another stage where they're going to be reading it probably the most thoroughly it's been read so far, because they're about to meet you for the first time. And that is where they're going to start thinking about what's in here that's interesting, what's in here that doesn't add up, and what's in here that's really relevant to the job that I'm trying to fill. And it's based on those things that they're going to be thinking about the questions that they want to ask you. The next time they're going to be reviewing your CV is that if there's been more than one stage of interview and there's different interviewers at the final stage, your CV will be reviewed again. And I have had the experience of a more senior individual in meeting and interviewing that person and choosing not to select them for the job based on the CV, even though they had already been through 2 or 3 rounds of interview. And then the last time that your CV is used is for referencing. So you've gone through the whole interview process, you've been selected for the job, and then they need to check your references, and they consolidate what the previous employers have told them with what you've said on your CV. So there's a number of times that your CV is actually used. It's not just used for the initial job search. I mentioned earlier, it's about 5 seconds that somebody looks at your CV to go to that first initial shortlist. 5 seconds, it's not much. And so there's a number of things that you need to try and get right for your CV to make an impact. So what I'd love for you to do is, if you've actually got, and obviously you're on your laptops, or some of you are, if you're on your laptop or if you're on your phone and you have a copy of your CV, I would definitely recommend that you have it up in front of you for this, because you're going to be thinking there's going to be lots of ideas coming at you, and it's definitely going to help you to have your CV in front of you if you have one. If you don't have a CV, then I'm very happy for you to bring up a Word document and take down some notes, or take down notes anyway, because there's going to be plenty of ideas for you as to how you can write your CV. And this is as best a time as any to actually start making moves and changes if you do have ideas that come to you through this webinar. So all CVs have the same fundamental building blocks. They'll have a profile at the top, which basically says, this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for, and this is why I'm relevant to your job. You may or may not choose to have a skills section, and I'll go into more detail with that later. You will have your education and or qualifications. I say education when I think about school, sixth form, university. Qualifications, I tend to think of more for like college and non-traditional methods of education. But both are used in conjunction with each other, and both are obviously very important and very relevant. Then your experience, and then your interests. Now, there is no rule in the order that these 3 in the middle will go in. You're going to order these things based on what's most relevant to the job that you're applying to. So if you don't have any experience, then obviously it wouldn't be there. But the fact that you will work for Inside Success means that you do have career experience. So I would imagine that all of you would want to have that section in your CV. However, to choose whether or not to have your skills at the top, your education at the top, or your experience at the top will depend on how relevant those things are to the job that you're applying to. So if your education is directly relevant to the job and it's the most relevant thing that you have, then that will go to the top, because that's the first thing that the interviewer is going to see. So yeah, as I said, if the skills are the most relevant thing that you have to the job you're applying to, then you'll put this at the top, equally with your experience. So we'll start off with the profile, because every CV is likely to have a profile. As I said, it introduces who you are and what you do. You want to give further detail about the value that you bring and affirm to the reader that you're looking for what they have to offer. Now, what I mean by this is that so many people tend to write their CV almost like a biography, and they're not thinking about the audience. Now, if you're into any kind of film or storytelling, then you'll know that the power is in thinking about what the reader or the audience is going to be experiencing. And this is where the profile really comes in. It's not about telling them everything you've ever done and listing every qualification or every skill that you have. It's about tailoring it and making it really specific to the job that you're applying to. So I've got some examples here. This one is more for GCSE level, and I've got one more at university level in a second. So here is an ambitious school leaver with 8 strong GCSE passes and a commitment to pursuing a career in media. Completed an enjoyable period of work experience at Sainsbury's, demonstrating a natural aptitude for interacting with customers and providing service with a smile. Played a key role in the school's successful netball and hockey teams. I am keen to secure an entry-level role with a production house where I can embrace my passion for producing and editing. It's very succinct. It's literally what, 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences long. You do write it like that in one paragraph. You wouldn't do that in bullet points. It would just be one paragraph at the top. And what they've done here is given a bit of a description, said what they are, so you know they're a school leaver, they're uni, are they coming out of work? No, they're a school leaver, so you've got an idea of what level they're at. You know they've had some career experience. They've told me what parts that really stood out for them and some of their skills here with interacting with customers, providing a good service. Oh, Saban, your sound is coming through. If you could mute yourself, that would be great. Played a key role in the school's successful netball and hockey teams. It shows that you're doing more just outside of your education, so you've got more to offer than just your education. And you're telling me, as the reader, what you are looking for. The reason why this last sentence is so important is because, believe it or not, so many people don't tell me that they want the job I'm advertising. Imagine me as the reader. Imagine that I'm a hiring manager with a vacancy to fill in my company, and I just want someone that wants to have the job that I'm offering. So many people don't tell me that they want this. And if it wasn't for this sentence here, it wouldn't be obvious to me, other than up here perhaps, that they definitely want a career in what I have to offer. Let's just imagine they only did the middle sentences. I've got work experience at Sainsbury's. These are some of my skills. These are some of my hobbies. You haven't actually confirmed to me that you are looking for what I have to offer. It sounds really, really simple, but it is the key to telling the reader that you are interested in their job. And believe it or not, that can be the absolute difference between them selecting you and not selecting you, because they might otherwise look at your CV and say, I don't even know if they're relevant to me because I don't know if this is what they want. We will talk about tailoring your CV later, and I'll show you how you would tailor this example. But as you can see here, there's key things that you would probably change depending on the job you're applying to. So this would stay the same: ambitious school leaver, 8 strong GCSEs, committed to pursuing a career in media, but maybe you're applying to an accountancy firm. So that bit would change accordingly, and that's where you tailor your CV depending on the job. We'll go into that in more detail later, but that is an example of a profile that you'll read at the top of a CV. I'll show you another example. So here we have a graduate example. A focused marketing graduate with a 2-1 degree specializing in digital marketing. I have relevant professional experience gained during 2 internships with local businesses, acquiring valuable insight into developing and implementing digital marketing campaigns. Able to balance multiple competing priorities, having worked part-time for 3 years, while still achieving strict deadlines for submission of assignments. Aiming to secure a place on a graduate scheme, which will provide commercial exposure and opportunities. I'm sorry, my screen is in the way, but I think it says advancement in the future in the financial services industry, or something to that effect. But let's break this down a bit more. You've told them what your education is. You've highlighted any relevant experience with the second sentence. And again, this is only 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences. So they're quite jam-packed, they're very value-packed, but it doesn't need to be any longer than that. So this middle one here, I have relevant professional experience gained during 2 internships with local businesses, and the skills you acquired, you're telling them that I've gained relevant skills. This bit you would tailor depending on the job you're applying to, because undoubtedly with any experience you would be acquiring different skills. So you tailor this part depending on the job. Again, a little bit more about your skills, able to balance multiple competing priorities, having worked part-time for 3 years while still achieving strict deadlines for submission of assignments. Most of you could probably take that sentence and use it in your CV. And then again, the last sentence is telling them exactly what you want. And what you want is the job you're applying to. You always want to tell them that you're looking for what they have to offer. Otherwise, it's just not going to appeal to them. So any questions with that, with the profile? Okay. So as I said earlier, the next section doesn't have to be skills, but if you did decide to put skills into the CV, and this is optional, this is some example of skills, and this is an example of how you could choose to lay it out. What I've done here is separate out 2 different types of skills, soft skills and technical skills. The reason why I do this is it's very intentional. This is, again, just an example. You might not be familiar with all of those technical skills, but everything on the left, these are your soft skills. Don't take this for granted. This is the stuff that makes you a unique person. Your skills will be different to the person sat next to you, metaphorically. I know we're on Zoom. But have a think about the skills that make you you. What are you known for? What are you reliable for? What do people say? Oh, you're really good at this. Think about the personality traits that you have and the things that your family, that your best friends, that your teachers say to you. If there's anything good, and I'm sure there is, this is where you want to start collecting your soft skills. Start taking notice of the feedback that you get, because that's where it goes in here. You may not have 6 things. It might just be 1 or 2. But if it is just 1 or 2, turn it into a sentence and say, I'm really well respected in whatever it is you're respected for, but in this soft skill. It's something that you value. And the reason why soft skills are important is because they want to know a bit more about the personality of the person that they're potentially going to be hiring and working for in their organization. Equally, a lot of job descriptions and a lot of adverts will talk to this. Of course, they'll tell you about the responsibilities of the job and any technical skills that you need, but they will make it clear, hopefully, if they need somebody that can handle a fast-paced working environment, or somebody that's had a can-do attitude. It means they want somebody proactive, who's not lazy, who's happy to get up and do the thing before they have to be asked. Or it might be that it's customer-facing and they want excellent communication skills. Or it might be that you're dealing with multiple deadlines, so they need to know that you can handle timekeeping. So use the job description to help you figure out what soft skills they're looking for, but also be aware of the soft skills that you bring to the table, because that's going to be what makes you unique, and they're going to be your talking points in the interview. On the right-hand side, you've got technical skills. This is only relevant if you're in a technical role. Any role like digital marketing, any kind of tech or IT role, finance, accounting, any kind of systems, analytics, any hands-on role like mechanics. I haven't really put examples of that in here, but any kind of engineering, you're going to be using software and systems and processes that are very specific to that career. And don't assume that the reader knows that you've done it. Even if you do refer to it in your career experience or in your hobbies, If you don't put the skill here in the technical area, they're not going to know. So even if you've said that you were a runner on a production shoot for a work experience or an internship, or you create media production in your spare time and you've got a website and a blog, don't assume that they know that that means that you're also doing filming and editing and production. You have to tell them everything because they can't make any assumptions. So you might want to add and separate your technical skills if you have them. Any questions with this section?